All right, here we go. Please subscribe to the channel. Please.
Hey guys, YouTube's got an algorithm and it'd really help us out a lot if you could like, comment, and subscribe. This is how we can get more information out to more people and share the message of Toronto real estate.
In
Thanks.
that order. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit the damn bell. Yes, it is.
Never. I do not give you permission to record this.
I will stop it right now.
No worries. So we're back.
The recording is canceled.
It's another Sunday.
It's another Sunday. Good morning,
Yeah.
Mr. TK.
What's
Well,
new, man? It's beautiful weather today.
I
Haven't been
am
outside.
unsure about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I haven't been outside. I looked outside. Looked nice.
I got a pool day, so I've been cognizant of the weather. I'm looking
Ooh.
at the app.
We were supposed to go to some friends last night, but it rained and they were
Yeah.
not willing to participate in indoor activities.
Okay. Well, to
Hey,
each their own, we say.
to each their own. Yeah. That
Yeah.
should be a topic for today. But we have iPhone John waiting
Awesome.
to
Bring him
come
in. Bring in the guest of the day, le guest à la jour.
bring in the guests. Time for an execution, a real estate execution. Brought to you by Frank Leo and Associates.
We got lots of sponsors. They don't all know that they sponsor us.
No, and if
We don't
they
really get
did,
much
would
from
they
them
be
yet.
happy? Yeah.
Yeah, we
Would
don't
they
get
be?
much from them yet.
I don't know
How's
if
it going,
they'd be
guys?
so cool. There
John.
he is. John.
All right.
I feel like I
Welcome.
know you. I feel like I know him. I've been watching so many videos of him lately.
Oh, really?
I gave him the content.
You feel bad for me. Yeah. Try watching this show after.
Welcome,
Nice to
John.
meet
Thanks.
you. Yeah,
Thanks for
welcome.
doing this, man. We appreciate it. I know it's Sunday
Yeah,
morning,
thanks for
so
having me on. Well, let me see if I can get it brighter in here.
no worries.
That's a little better.
We're in the studio, right? So we got all the professional lighting
We've
and
got the
stuff, right?
professional
So
lighting here. So
we got a Bay Street studio. So
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah.
Do you really know, or are you guys just
No.
saying that? with
it's
that
like
background?
off Bay Street.
We're definitely in our basements at home.
Like it's kind of.
Boy,
I'm in a bunker in Cuba.
Yeah.
that's good. I heard Guantanamo was beautiful this time of year.
I don't know. There's no windows.
So, John, I'm going to give you a little intro here just because we're already on the show. We're already recording. We're already rolling here. We're happy to have you. You are the chairman and CEO of Wondr Gaming. I consider you like a serial entrepreneur. You've kind of got a bunch of different, your hand is in many different cookie jars and you're all over. And it's always inspiring to see what you're up to and different things. And I'm sure you have an opinion on real estate. Commercial real estate, residential real estate. I'm sure you have some sort of opinion. So I told Darryl, I said, I got a guy. Let's bring him on the show. I know him from growing up in the wonderful community of the Port Union Road in Lawrence area in the east end of Scarborough, and I'm hoping to catch up with you a little bit too. So welcome.
Great, thanks for having me.
We've been doing this show now for Darryl. Has it been a year? Do we have our year anniversary? We're not really good at keeping track. So I think we're at a year. We're close to a year.
I think we're over a year.
We're over a year. Yeah. So we've been doing this.
Feels
Obviously,
like-
started in the pandemic. Started, reading news articles, going back and forth on what people are thinking about real estate. We've gone through the waves of, oh my gosh, the world's ending. Oh my gosh, real estate's not going to be in demand. To holy crap, we can't get enough of it, and everything in between. We try to bring on a guest every other week. We just shoot the shit for an hour, and it's really not as serious or professional as any other podcast that you may or may not have been on. But like
Don't
either way,
let the background fool you.
yeah, we put on a good show.
Don't look
right?
behind the curtain.
But another thing too is Darryl is actually, out of all my friends, I would say Darryl is by far the most creative entrepreneurial guy in my circle. And all of like both of our sons are big gamers. We want to hear about that kind of stuff too, and and what your thoughts on. So how are you doing?
Good, man. Can't complain. Really busy. And speaking of real estate, I just sold my house to buy a new one. So I I know what going through showings and the listing process during COVID is like, which was far less pleasant than when we bought this house, I guess 6 years ago. So, but yeah, no, things are well. Business is good. Family's good. What more can I ask for?
Did you sell
Amazing.
your house first, or did you buy the new house first?
No, I bought the new house first.
Bought the new
I
house.
was out there. I was ready to
How,
carry quite a load. No, you know what? We were able to do it conditional on the sale of our existing home, and we bought the
What?
house. Now I live
legend.
in Port. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I live in Port.
Where is this? Where is this?
Port Credit, Mississauga area.
Ah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, we got really lucky. I had a great realtor. Kevin O'Brien is his name. He's amazing. He's a great dude.
Shout out to Kevin.
I'm sorry.
Shout out to Kevin.
Shout out to Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
SPP
No.
condition, amazing. That's like rare
That's
to get that
crazy.
condition for you. Believe me, that's like he's a hero.
Yeah, we thought it was going to sell relatively quickly, but June was just such a soft month, and so we put it on the market at the end of May, and subsequently moved out of the house because we've got little kids, and you don't want to be here during the showings, and we ended up being out of the house for 6 weeks, which was not too much fun. But yeah, as soon as July opened up again, like nothing sold in our neighborhood particularly well in the month of June, and then when July opened up, it was like the floodgates. The selling just ramped up immediately.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah, and you're staying in the area, like you're
Moved right up the street. Yeah.
Okay.
Super
Bigger
excited.
house, like you kind of got more space, like a lot of people are doing right now. Is that what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Bigger lots, bigger land, that kind of stuff.
Much bigger lot, pool, all that kind of fun stuff. So for the kids,
Awesome.
yeah, we were able to, I'm like a kilometer closer to Mississauga Golf Club now, so I'm pretty happy. It's like real dad mode.
Yeah, I was out at my local club yesterday too, right? It's nice just to have something 10 minutes away that you can just go to, play, and get home, the back roads to get there. Awesome. Exactly. So, you got 2 kids. You have a daughter and you have a newborn recently.
I have 2. Yeah, I got a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
Both of which are about to turn respectively 7 and 2, and they're up at the chalet today. So I'm like sitting here. It's quiet. I don't know what to do with myself. So it's
yes.
I'll probably just end up doing work, to be honest with you.
That is generally the case.
Yeah.
Daryl's kids are a little bit older. My oldest is 9, and they're big into gaming. His son is like basically he fills many roles on our show at 14, I think, right? 15, 14 right?
Years old.
So he's just so much more advanced than we were at 14 when it comes to technology.
Oh, he built
my 9-year-old is.
He built his first computer when he was on his 13th birthday, and it was like a serious computer. He's he's pretty cool. He's really into gaming. I'm a big gamer too. I mean, me and him yesterday, I think we disappeared into a VR game for like 3 hours and didn't even realize how long it was. It was like the technology is crazy these days.
Yeah, anyways. It's a lot different than playing Nintendo or Sega when we were kids, but
it's so fun though. Those are the days. That was still exciting, right?
That's what was good back then.
20 years from now, people will look back and like all these kids, look at them with their Roblox and Fortnite, and what do they know?
What were they thinking?
There's no augmented reality. Oh my gosh.
It's going to be, the velocity of change in the video game industry is pretty huge. And, but the industry goes well beyond just the console games that we're all playing. The mobile gaming industry is the fastest growing at the moment. See companies here in Canada like Leaf Mobile, which in my opinion is the best in the country. That's just growing leaps and bounds. Then you've got obviously the big game publishers like Activision, Blizzard, and Riot Games, et cetera, that are doing increasingly well. So there's no slowdown in our industry, that's for sure.
How is that going to shape?
I'm surprised the industry didn't get more content out during this last year and a half. It was like fairly weak for big games. Like we've all been kind of sitting here as gamers, kind of bored, waiting for like the next game to come out, and the ones that came out were pretty whatever. No.
Well, yeah, I think kind of depends on which games you're playing. I mean, for these guys, to be honest with you, if you're a large game publisher and you already have your audience, you've got your constituency of folks that are playing locked in, you're going to hold as long as you can until you release that next game, because they're incredibly cost-intensive assets to create. And more importantly, you know, once it's out there, from a financial perspective, you've already incurred most of your cost. And so for these guys, you know, if you look at, for instance, Call of Duty 3, Season 3, which launched in the end of April, beginning of May, my company, Wondr Gaming, launched it Canada-wide with Twitch and Chris Boucher from the Raptors on May 15th. And, you know, you don't go to purchase a hard physical copy. You're downloading the game for free, right? And so they're monetizing by virtue of all of these items that you can purchase within gameplay. And so it becomes, as you guys know, enhanced almost on a daily basis, where you can, you know, purchase a new avatar, a new gun, a new grenade, or whatever it may be. And so the moment that becomes somewhat finite, where they're like, hey, you know, we've kind of exhausted all our opportunities to make this game new and interesting, that's when the new one comes out. But they're not inclined to release anything new too soon.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. I mean, these are gigantic assets that these companies are creating. A lot of them are just ridiculous money printing machines, right?
That's right. And again, the future of esports is about the media aspect and being able to have, you know, increasing low cost assets that you're selling to the gaming community, right? So, you know, really great example is the game Sims. I don't know if you remember the game Sims.
Oh, yeah.
There's a company that's owned by called Sims Resource, which is owned by Enthusiast Gaming, where I was previous to starting Wondr. And Sims Resource does everything from sell a brand new pair of Louboutin shoes to a Jimmy Choo purse. And so the idea is that if you're playing Sims and you can't afford a pair of $1,200 Louboutins yourself, you'll pay $9.99 to have them featured on your avatar in the game. So that's where you see this thing creeping up and just becoming absolutely huge. And that's being witnessed in gameplay. So it's a whole new revenue vertical for this industry.
And Wondr Gaming, like, what is it exactly that your focus is?
So Wondr Gaming, we generate revenue through 3 silos. We're a partner of both Reddit and Twitch. We feature creative content, which is launching on our Twitch channel, which is going to be called The Wondr Show, and on Reddit through a number of Ask Me Anything campaigns. We have one coming up with Fred VanVleet, some stuff coming up with a number of NHL players, you know, all integrated into the video game community. So we generate revenue through partnerships with what we call large non-endemic partners. So telcos, banks, insurance companies, et cetera, that want to gain access to the 2 billion plus people that are gaming on a daily basis. Our second revenue silo is NFTs. We're the first publicly traded company in North America with a fully built out NFT platform. So we work with professional athletes, professional sports teams and leagues, as well as NCAA players since the new ruling came out at the end of June, where they can own their own likeness. So we actually mint the NFTs and host it for sale on our platform. And then our third is we have a loyalty and rewards platform called gamingrewards.com, which launches in October. And, you know, we work with a number of the same large brands that sponsor our content to help them move their product on our platform. And we have a loyalty and rewards component such that, you know, the gaming community gets great deals on everything from a new pair of Jordans to upcoming games to live events to even things like opening up bank accounts and getting your first credit card.
Is that just a way of saying cross promotion through video games?
Yeah, I mean, the video game industry is one of the most discernible crowds on the planet. And it's not like us watching, you know, Sunday PGA, you know, the last day at any game, any of the tour, or watching an NHL game, Major League Baseball, et cetera. Everybody's watching on Twitch, or they're watching, you know, through a number of other platforms, and they're able to interact with each other in real time. So if you launch something that is not what we call authentic to the gaming community, they're going to let you know pretty quick. So this is not about cross branding or anything along those lines. This is about creating a marketplace that is somewhere that the gaming community finds comfortable to go out and purchase the basket of goods that they would naturally buy. in the run of a day anyways.
I like that. I like how that response time is, right? Because there's so many different, ads, podcasts, events, all that kind of stuff that gets sponsored. That's clearly just a brand just trying to force their name down your throat, right? And everyone's just like, it doesn't suit the activity or the fans or the audience. And they don't really get an opportunity to say anything. So I like that in the gaming community. They let you know right away, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
Oh, yeah.
if you're with your son and you're playing the VR game you were playing yesterday, and then you can through that game sign into gamingawards.com and order something like Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats and earn rewards for something that you're already purchasing, and those rewards can be used to utilize things like buying a new sword on Fortnite, buying a new gun on Call of Duty, things of that nature. That's basically what the purpose that we serve.
Cool.
Yeah, that's neat. So NFTs, just quickly, let's just jump into the NFT space here. We've had fractional ownership in real estate. We've had parts of the world, different pieces of real estate that I've seen offered on NFTs. Like you're talking about the athletes, where they've got their own unique NFTs that they're offering and everything else too. How far do you think the NFT space is going to go? Where do you think that's going to go?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we're in the business of the democratization of NFTs, making them accessible. I mean, what we see now, just because media is inherently sensationalist, is that you see the $400,000 NFT sold at Christie's auction or something along those lines. But the best way to look at an NFT is that it's an alternative asset class, right? So the same way that you have a Tom Brady rookie card or a Wayne Gretzky rookie card, you're just hosting it as a digital asset as opposed to physical. So the idea is about ownership, about provenance. And so, we work with a number of different athletes you're going to see coming out over the next 90 days, whereby we're taking, some of like Bobby Orr's famous shot, famous number 4 Bobby Orr, famous shot with the Bruins, and he's got his hands outstretched in front of the net. You take that, you do a 1 of 50 NFTs, sell it on the marketplace for $500 each. We do a revenue share with his estate, such that we're incurring all of the upfront costs, featuring it on the platform, and then facilitating the sale. And you can do that for assets past, present, and future. And so the interesting thing to your point is that you're now starting to see it go into things such as real estate, right? So especially in the wine industry, like, can you own a portion of Burgundy? Theoretically through an NFT? Can you own a bottle of Grand Cru, any number of incredible vintages, and actually own it as an NFT? And, the world is showing that there's a marketplace for that.
It's amazing. So the vision, so NFTs, 100 years from now, real estate becomes, completely unaffordable for the average person. Is it going to be fractional ownership where they're all owning an actual piece of the real estate, or is it strictly just going to be NFTs because population's at 100 billion and no one owns anything? What do you think?
I don't know. I certainly hope it doesn't go that direction. I think we don't deal in the world of NFTs through exclusively the crypto realm. We only sell it through what we call fiat currencies, so Canadian and US dollars. I think in the case of real estate, it can be seen through that lens of an NFT, a non-fungible token, and the token is just the asset, and the fungibility is referencing your ability to duplicate it. So it's kind of like owning a home, right? If the house that I'm sitting in right now, you guys could sell it for me, but physically you can duplicate it somewhere else, but it won't sit on this plot of land, so it physically can't be duplicated in its truest sense. But as far as NFTs are concerned in the blockchain, that's where I think your question really comes into play, which is that fractional ownership opportunity. But at the end of the day, the digital form of ownership is always going to have its limitations, right? So in 100 years from now, I think there'll be something probably a lot more tangible as it relates to what digital goods can do with ownership of physical property. But it's going to be exciting to see where it goes.
Did you see there was a gentleman who was selling a house in California as an NFT, and he had some artist draw a picture of the house with some aliens and UFOs kind of popping up. Did you see that whole thing? Did you follow that story? But he didn't end up selling the house through an NFT. I think, like, I believe NFTs are definitely a gigantic opportunity. I think the real estate market is like just starting to get into technology. I think NFTs, although they would be like a huge success in things like fractional ownership of real estate, um, I think this real estate market's going to take a while to adopt. I mean, if you just sold your house and bought a house, you'll see. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to see how antiquated all their systems are in the real estate market, residential, right? Like just bookings and like all the stuff. I mean, they just got on that system of doing bookings online, right? If you've seen their back end, it's a disaster. And like I can't wait till somebody comes up with something cool with NFTs and real estate. But that first guy, I mean, it was a whole ad campaign. He got a lot of eyes on it and no bites. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I almost think that it's in the seller's interest for the real estate model to stay antiquated, right? I mean, to a certain degree, having, applying the notion of like fractional ownership and ownership being held on the blockchain, it doesn't have to apply everywhere. I think that's kind of the biggest misnomer that people see with kind of new modern technologies and ways of understanding ownership. I don't think it naturally applies at the moment, to real estate, and I wonder if it ever will, because at the end of the day, you can go on House Sigma, as I've done so frequently, in the past 6 months, looking at houses, etc. And you can see that my house sold for price X and I sold it at a premium of Y over a 5-year period of time. And so is that going to deter you from wanting to buy my house? I don't think so. I think the demand in the marketplace is what's going to establish that price. And if somebody's willing to pay it, I want to get the highest price possible. Whereas I think in the framework of looking at things through the blockchain, the idea of like fractional ownership, I would think the real estate industry is kind of allergic to that, right? Because who wants to own a portion of their home? You either lease or you own. It's binary. There's no kind of middle area, right? Or at least, I don't know, me as an individual, I wouldn't want to have a middle area.
Yeah, we did it. We did a whole show. We talked to somebody about that, and those are all the issues. I wanted to hear your opinion on it, but those are all the issues with crypto involved, digital currencies. At the end of the day, when I sell my home, I want you to pay me cash that I'm 100% sure of, that I can spend that money in the places that accept it, as many places as possible, so that there's no other risk or volatility once you've actually exchanged the funds for me to give you the title, right? And that's the old school way of doing it. And I think that it's going to be a really hard model to change.
I agree. I like that old school model. I want to, what's the French interpretation of the word mortgage is death gamble? I mean, it's the biggest debt encumbrance.
Until death is what is the direct translation.
Yeah, until death. So,
until death.
A mortgage is the biggest financial encumbrance most of us ever take on. And so are you going to want to somehow try a new version of technologically understanding your ownership of a property? I know I don't, right? Yeah. But I understand how it works in our industry, because if you're watching the finals of the Call of Duty finals and there's 112 million people watching 8 guys playing a stadium in Philadelphia, and you get to buy a 15-second clip of that last kill shot where a guy wins a $3 million prize and you can own it and you're a huge fan of the game, that makes total sense. You're like, yeah, I'd pay $400 for that. I'd pay, if it's a 1 of 2,000, I'd pay $40 for it and be one of those owners and maybe resell it on another platform. But to do it with your home or your condo or your car, I don't know. I don't see it going that direction.
Neat. All right, well, let's get into some more real estate related stuff. So commercial space, right? So, you guys, do you have offices? Are you guys in a head office somewhere? Are you guys, because Wondr Gaming is jobs? in the past couple of years, Wondr Gaming has now been started. Is that right? How long has Wondr Gaming been?
So we've got an office in Toronto and one in Montreal, downtown in both cities. Yeah. Not a large footprint. I think, part of the thing about our industry is that we don't naturally require a ton of office space. Yeah. We're in the business of driving down overheads as opposed to the opposite. But, I think that's an industry, I'm a capital markets guy. And, you know, my role in the number of different businesses that I've run or I'm on the board of, I'm not an exempt market dealer. I'm not, you know, an IROC certified banker, but I've got a very large broker network at, you know, all of the large financial institutions and investment banks in the city. So, you know, I spend a lot, if not most of my time with these folks. And you know, you're starting to see a lot of reluctance of folks going back to the office. A lot of these commercial properties in the city of Toronto continuing to be underpopulated. And I really wonder what's going to happen. How long is this going to continue to affect REITs, and what's the long-term value of commercial real estate going to look like by virtue of the fact that folks are more and more reluctant to go back?
Yeah. Yeah,
so we have an article here from this week that says people are now clamoring to rent tiny condos in downtown Toronto again. And I do see in my Twitter feed regularly a previous guest, Nazma Ali, saying that she's got bidding wars on tiny condos for rent again downtown. And I see reports from there was a few tech companies, I forget who they were, but large companies saying we're going to make people go back to the office for 3 days a week now. And so it looks like life is kind of starting to be forced back into the core. It seems to me like every time I've gone out, people really want to be out and doing stuff. So I don't think it's going to take too much to get people to go back. But I don't think full-time for sure. Like it needs to be almost an optional thing to go in. Like when the kids are driving you crazy for too long, go into the office, right? If your wife's pissing you off, I got to go to the office right now. You know, like to have a place to go. But I don't think it's going to be full-time again, ever.
But I wonder how much of a decrease in the amount of space they're using that's going to cause, right? You know, everything from, you know, all different levels of the banks to insurance companies to whatever it may be. I just wonder about the long-term impact of how much available office space and things of that nature is going to exist out there.
And there's been a lot of companies, you know, Canadian Tire, like a few clients and stuff like that I know who work in corporate offices and stuff, like major you know, retailers and stuff like that, who've got, you know, tens of thousands of employees, have been eliminating office space, like not just, you know, toning it down or telling people, you know, we're not coming back. Like they're actually handing the keys back and getting rid of full floors of their office space.
Office is a weird place right now. But the reality, I think, with anything is that, especially this, is that the developers are going to slow down on the office inventory that they create. They're going to fill up the old stuff or the current stuff with new companies or growing companies. Like look at Shopify. They're like the biggest company in Canada right now, and they're just eating up office space. Amazon's buying commercial properties like up the wazoo. You know, like more and more companies are coming here. This is a good market to be in. Toronto proper is like one of the biggest states in the US. You know what I mean? Like we have a huge economy in Ontario. So I think, you know what, it's going to readjust, but office will still be necessary. But yeah, some people will shrink, some will grow. Like your company, if you keep this trajectory up, you're going to need more office space soon, right? You're eating up companies and you're in an industry that's going to like quadruple in the next 5 to 10 years, right?
It's true. But I mean, maybe, you know, we're a bit of a different example because you can do so much of what we do remotely. But, you know, we've got a growing presence in New York with staff in New York, staff in LA. I mean, at the end of the day, our industry is in the United States, right? Canada, you know, I always say Canada, we're a great country. We're a big country. We're, you know, fantastic on so many levels, but economically, we're like Denmark on steroids compared to the United States. We're not really that big. But all things equal, you know, that's Shopify, to your point. I was an early investor at Shopify, big fan of their model, now the biggest company in the country. They're telling employees they're not coming back. So, and you know, they at King in Portland, I think they just built 160,000 square foot office with their original footprint being in a historic building at the northwest corner of Spadina and King. But yeah, so, you know, I think every industry is going to be different. The closer you get to tech, the further, you know, the further away you're going to see people coming back into the office. But I'm with you guys. I can't sit still. I can't sit at home. So I'm out every day of the week, either in the office or, you know, at a meeting, a lunch, a dinner, whatever the government will let us do nowadays.
So you're saying Shopify, because we know that they got new space, but they're actually telling their employees to stay home, or it's going to be hybrid?
Shopify is saying that folks are not coming back to the office.
So what are they using the space
for? Optional or like no?
Well, they are communications up until very recently, is from everything that I know with folks that are very senior at Shopify, is that they have no intention of compelling people to come back, and a vast majority of their work, of their staff, is going to be working remotely.
Yeah, what the hell do they even need people for? Yeah, they don't need that office.
Computer people, yeah, they're happy to be at home, and they probably have a setup that's conducive for working already, right?
Yeah, and I think that facility, that office space they built at King in Portland, is a rounding error to them. When they're 6 times the size of RBC, which is the 16th largest bank on the planet, it's pretty staggering what they can afford.
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
right now the market seems to have been cooling. I like what you said about your house. You had listed it, so you had bought, you got a condition in May. Don't know how Kevin did that. Kudos to him. That's awesome. Then it took 6 weeks to be able to sell, and you saw the market start to, all of a sudden, July hit, and boom, the buyer came. Like, was it number of showings that increased? Was it maybe offers started coming in? What was it that you saw in July?
What? It was a really weird phenomenon. I mean, we went in, we did, like many folks. I'm 37, young family. We did like what many folks did, brought in a contractor to give us a quote on building, the house to be larger and so on and so forth. And we had this dream house right up the street from us that we had always wanted. It was DeMar DeRozan's neighbor's home when DeMar played for the Raptors. And we just loved this house ever since the first day that my wife and I drove down the street to come to our house, without giving too much detail of where I live. We saw this house and we're like, wow, imagine we could live there one day. And so our realtor was able to get the deal done privately with the owners, who were kind of older and retired. Their kids are graduating university. And so we just pulled the trigger. And so, we were like, this house will sell. It'll be a joke. Like, or we have a nice enough home. It's nothing special, but it'll sell really quickly. And man, I don't know what happened in June, but the taps just turned off. And where I live, Mississauga Road, just south of Indian, north of Lakeshore, it's the most sought after neighborhood in Mississauga, right?
It's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it's spectacular. So, when it didn't sell and we were like getting into the 3rd week of June, we were like, are we going to have to hold these 2 mortgages? Because this is going to be crazy. And of course, we were living out of the house. We're living with my in-laws, and thankfully my in-laws are great. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on your podcast and there's a likelihood that they might see this. But they actually
very little likelihood that they will see this if they're
don't play it down. My father-in-law was a real estate agent for 40 years. So maybe he watches this religiously. I don't know. But yeah, no, we got to like week 5 and I was like, I don't know if I can swear, but I was like, F that. We're gonna move back in. We moved back in, and then thankfully that the house sold to a family 4 days later. So
yeah, we saw that. We saw in June, opening up started. I think the step 1 started middle of June, something like that. I can't remember when they started reopening things, but people just got, they get fed up, right? I mean, everything is human behavior. Everyone's talking about interest rates. Everyone's talking about the economy. Everyone's talking about immigration and all these things that are all factors. Nothing is more powerful than human behavior. Nothing is more powerful than a bunch of people when all of a sudden they're trapped in their homes and COVID is happening and they need more space and they need work from home and they want a pool and they want to get out of the city and all these things. That's so much more powerful. If they will find a way, even if interest rates are 10%, they will find a way to go where they want to go. Even if their jobs are suffering, they will find a way to make the change that they want. And that's what we saw. So all of a sudden, even though the exact same fundamentals and economics with respect to borrowing and everything were still in place, people were now allowed to go out and do other shit. So it was like go shopping, go visit their family, go up north, whatever it was, and real estate was not a priority. Right?
No, and for me it was pretty scary too, because I just bought a house with TK's help a little over a month ago, and then it felt like every article and everybody was saying the market is cooling, the market is tanking, it's time for the crash. And I was like, oh fuck, I just bought a house, man, like at the top of the market. That's the dumbest thing ever. But I really feel like it is just about to go
It was a slow point when
bananas.
he bought. Yeah.
It is
Now,
just a
now in
little slow
retrospect.
point. Yeah. But tell me, does everybody, like we hear, waning housing market dims asking price expectation for sellers? Is this a fact or is this a headline?
Well, let's just hear what John has to say. This is a real world experience. After 6 weeks, was it you're in your mind, your expectations were like, maybe we're not going to get the amount of money that we thought? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. And but the funny thing is, my wife and I were saying to each other yesterday, we could have got like 100 or 150 more had we held out. I don't know what happened, if it was specific to our neighborhood or not, but man, it was just like like I said, somebody turned the buyer tap off, and it was
It's a
like,
price point thing. It's a price point thing. I'm telling you, because TK keeps telling me all the time that, you know, he's got multiple offers all over the place in the more average price point, or even a little below average price points, or a little above average, like somewhere in that sweet spot. It's bananas still, right? But in some of the higher price points, it seems like people have gone to their yachts or traveled because
They
they
got the
finally
places. They got the
could,
money to go
or
places. Yeah.
do whatever the fuck they feel like doing right now. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Is this a non-swearing episode? Sorry.
No, come on, we're on
you
YouTube.
guys.
But the luxury market always is. I think it's got like the biggest exaggerations, right? So when things start to go really well, all of a sudden we start seeing these 9, 10, $15 million sales. And then when the market starts to slow down a little bit, it's like this huge decrease in the volume of high-end real estate that
High-end
gets sold.
stuff. Yeah, listen,
That's
I'll
just the
tell
way it
you,
is.
let me tell you a quick story. So way back in my younger foolish days, I decided that I was a big shot, and I bought a couple of really expensive properties to redevelop at like Leslie and Lawrence area, at Banbury area. Beautiful area. I was in way over my head, and the market was rip roaring and just going crazy, right? And everybody was like, go, go, go. The market's just going up. The market's just going up. And boom, like the worst timing in the world. All of a sudden, like Bay Street collapses and everything, all hell breaks loose here, right? And it's like all of a sudden you're thinking you're test driving Porsches and everything's like amazing, and the next thing you know, it's like you were the worst case scenario, like the Excel spreadsheet that had the worst case scenario. You know, I was still a billionaire, and all of a sudden nobody would buy anything. And the rationale at the very beginning was that rich people will still buy when things are tough because they'll still have money. And it's the exact opposite. They're rich because they're smart. And when they think that the market is turning, they stop. Or if they feel like it, they can stop. They don't need to buy things, right? They buy stuff because they want to. And it's a totally different market. So if you're above a certain price point, it makes sense that those taps turned off. But it feels fucking scary, eh?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're right too. You know, I think a lot of people, depending on your net worth, are really guided by what's happening in your portfolio, and you know, oftentimes that might be mutually exclusive to what's happening in the real estate market. But you know, depending on your exposure you have with your broker, and you know, if you're getting hit, you're going to be less inclined to go out there and buy a home, or and like to your point, that can have an effect across the board. I remember my dad used to always say when there was a recession, you know, make sure to buy stock in the likes of Shoppers Drug Mart, because you know, inherently people stop buying expensive shoes and purses and start spending $17 to $25 on Revlon, right?
Toilet
And so
paper.
you're witnessing that shift happening where people are still going out and buying things that make them feel good, but the price point is much lower.
Well, and you know what? Even the Federal Reserve in the States says that, or maybe it was here in Canada, the Bank of Canada was saying that we're going to see a shift in the spending patterns for a while, and the recovery of the economy is going to be more consumer based on like consuming other than real estate now. Real estate's going to take a back seat to like you know, more Amazon purchases and
travel,
travel
yeah,
and whatever.
yeah, different things like that. What do you think right now? I mean, Bank of Canada is already starting to reduce the amount of bonds that they're buying. The quantitative easing is down to 2 billion a week. We've had these huge inflation scares. You know, everyone's got an opinion on it, right? Interest rates seem to be at the lowest point that they are right now for the next year, maybe more. How do you think right now Tiff Macklem's doing? What do you think about Bank of Canada's moves? How are you viewing everything that they've been saying lately?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like trying to play pool in the dark, right? I mean, if you look at, domestic here to Ontario, Doug Ford's $38 billion projected deficit was down $9 billion. Is that by virtue of austerity and reduced spending? No, healthcare spending up 15.2%. Education spending up 9.8%. So, you're seeing that money still coming out. And then from a macro sense, in terms of the Bank of Canada, look, as we all know, they're not going to increase the interest rate by more than 25 basis points in any quarter. And I think the collective leveraging of Canadians across Canada, I don't know if people could bear 50 basis points in one fiscal year, right? So I
forget about the people. What about the government? The government can't handle a rate increase. It'll bankrupt them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're borrowing more money than anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. So, the levering that everybody has had to do to get through this, I think, is what's going to continue to keep that interest rate low. I'm very happy for that. I mean, access to capital right now is staggering. If you've, if you've got a great portfolio of assets and you've got potential leverage accounts, in the public markets, the banks are just so willing to lend. I've never seen anything like it. And that's the other scary part too, because, even folks that are doing well, and I'm not sure what even doing well is defined as nowadays. It just seems so disparate. I don't know how half the people out there afford the houses that they do. But, what I'm concerned and fascinated about is what this is going to look like in 10 years from now. I think in 5 years from now, we're not going to see a huge velocity of change in terms of how people are servicing their debt. But in 10 years, like, where could it be? And I think a lot of people are further underwater than they're willing to admit.
I think what happens in 10 years is we have to look a little bit south to New York City. And it's going to be like that. It's going to be more renters, high rents, ridiculous prices for real estate all over the place, and high immigration with high net worths coming in and buying empty places because it's a place to park their dough. It's going to look basically like it looks now, but a little crazier. I through my business, I do some international work in other countries, and I was speaking to a guy in Australia, and I had no idea. First of all, their dollar is really similar to ours in value. And secondly, they're selling apartments for $100 million, and it's not even that crazy for them. $100 million apartment.
Yeah,
Australia's a nice place.
Yeah,
it better be.
The AUD is a strong currency. They've got a really successful investment banking history there. Obviously their natural resource business is huge. I've been in a monster condo at the Q1 just south of Brisbane, which is their tallest building in Surfers Paradise. So I've actually been in one of the kind of condos we were talking about. I don't think it was nearly that much, but to your point, the Australia's affluent community is like unknown when it comes to North America. Just how well that folks can live there, and how stable their economy is, given the fact that it's 22 million people in the middle of the South Pacific. But they punch well above their weight.
Yeah. It's insane. Even here. Okay, you know what? Let me bring one thing up that I'll tie into this next thing quickly, because I was watching a video of yours and you were wearing the best t-shirt ever. It said, the top line said New York, then under it said Paris, under it said LA, and then under that,
I know the shirt.
Scarborough, and then Milan, which is amazing. But listen, Scarborough now, like, first of all, everywhere. I get a million emails a day. Well, not lately, but a lot of emails a day of new launches for new developments in the city. And like everywhere is launching for over $1,000 a square foot. Like literally everywhere right now is launching for over $1,000 a square foot. Like Scarborough fits on that t-shirt. And I mean, the joke is that obviously Scarborough should not be on the t-shirt, right?
Yeah, I guess that definition that TK, I mean, look, TK and I grew up in a nice community. But well, we were always 5 minutes away from the hood if you needed to, you know.
Anything.
Depends who you're talking to.
But, you know, maybe property at Morningside and Lawrence was not worth a ton when we grew up there. Whereas in the neighborhood that we grew up in, it was probably one of the nicer neighborhoods outside of the Bluffs and Guildwood. But, you know, those houses that we grew up in, which were probably 200 grand when I was a kid, are now what, $1.2 million, $1.3 million? It's crazy.
More, yeah. It's
so
insane.
I think the stigma that Scarborough may have had in the 80s and 90s is all but gone, with the exception of certain areas.
It has to be gone. It's crazy because you know what? Now $1,000 a square foot is pretty much cheap. I mean, this is Waterloo and Kitchener and Peterborough pricing, right? I don't even know what Scarborough should technically be right now. I know it's not getting $1,000 a foot right now.
When we had the market in 2017, that made a big correction, right? We saw a lot of different things happening, and obviously prices had come down quite a bit, and there were so many areas that had been affected, some by foreign investors, some by just, you know, market conditions. The fastest, the most highly appreciated neighborhood in all of the Greater Toronto area at one point, I think it was about middle of 2019, was Malvern. Because it was the cheapest part of the city, and everybody who was coming to the city, immigrating from other places, looking for a rental, trying to find a place that's affordable so that they don't overpay, all went to this undervalued neighborhood that obviously at one time no one would want to live in, right? Because of the news. But it grew the most. I mean, it grew faster than every other neighborhood in the GTA, right?
Yeah, I have the distinction of saying I was robbed for a pair of Ewing shoes at Melbourne Mall as a teenager. So there you go. Clearly things have changed since I went to go buy a Nietzsche sweater as a kid. But that didn't work.
Oh my goodness gracious!
I'm glad it's on the upswing.
They're on the up and up now, right? So yeah, there's definitely areas like that. I still live in the same area. I still live, I'm the little boy who never got to leave his hometown, but I love it here, and this is where I raised my family, and I wouldn't live anywhere else. Darryl develops, and he's got a project in Scarborough that he's working on, and we feel the same way. It's an undervalued part of the city. We got the subway extensions that are going to be eventually coming through. We've got all sorts of
LRT
options.
Extensions.
LRT. We've got all the transit, schooling, waterfront development. You've got
the universities out there too.
Universities, everything is just really coming up, and everything's just being gentrified. Just all these old, commercial spaces are starting to come up there. I saw some really nice industrial stuff that was being done in the North End, where everyone's just revitalizing all the old buildings, and then we're getting condos, and condos to me are the answer to our problem. No one wants to hear that. Everyone wants to live with a white picket fence, but population growth, affordability, options for our kids to be able to buy, like, condos are the answer. We need more condos in strategic places where people can live and have spaces that they're comfortable in, and to me, own, so that they can have a piece of the real estate market and build wealth. Right? We can't go to the renting city as quickly as some might think. I think we've got to try to get ownership into every person's hands possible, whoever it is, young or old. Right?
Or investor. What's the difference?
Investor just leads to the tenants. I'm not saying that we're not going to have renters. I'm just thinking what you're saying in New York, going all the way, as far, I don't know what the percentage of New Yorkers is that rent. I know that we're somewhere in the
5 or something.
Yeah, and we're somewhere in the 50 to 60% ownership.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah, so
I think the notion of home ownership is fleeting, right? For a lot of people,
especially the younger generation.
Yeah, for sure. When my wife and I we bought a condo in 2009 at King and Bathurst. So we were what, 28, I guess? No, we were 25, 25. And we bought it for, I think it was 1,100 square feet, 2 bed, 1 bath. We bought it for $279,000.
I was going to say that. Crazy.
Yeah. It's worth like, I don't know, $1,000,000 right now. So, and then, you know, I remember when we got that place, that seemed like crazy. Like my dad, God bless him, said to me, he's like, what are you doing? Like, how are you going to afford this place? I'm like, Dad, it's $2,100 a month. He goes, $2,100 a month? Are you out of your mind?
That's
I'm like,
actually
$2,100 a month doesn't pay for my kids' daycare nowadays. Like it's just the velocity of how expensive these houses have become. I just don't see how that stops.
It's crazy. You know? It's crazy. But so you have also here, check this out. Here's where you can still buy a house in Ontario for less than $250K on average.
You just need a plane to be able to get there because
well, here,
there's no
check
other
it
roads.
Out. But there's 12 places in Ontario that you can still buy a house. It may not be a house you want to live in, and it more than likely will not be in a town you want to live in, but they exist. And you know what? It will happen. People will buy them, and the places will get better, especially if there's a little bit of water near them, and people will.
Hopefully, they're good at mining minerals and
but listen, I mean, Sault Ste. Marie, Thunder Bay, like they're populated. They're not like that. Windsor, Sudbury, Brockville, like they're not Timmins. Like they're small towns, but they're not like teeny tiny. Mm-hmm. We've all been to them. We've all taken kids to hockey there, or been there for hockey or baseball or something ourselves, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, and that's the only direction that it can head in. America is famous for the notion that small town America is a heavily populated place. Like most of the United States is not, you know, the major city centers of New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, and, you know, LA, Washington, et cetera. It's that central region. Like how many people live in Dakota, Wyoming, and all these areas. And I think we're going to see that exact same thing happen here. I don't know if the stat is still relevant or accurate, but I remember, you know, at some point there was a statistic that said somewhere around 80% of Canadians live within 150 to 200 kilometers of the US border. And that's just not sustainable in the long run. Canada is a country that is defined by Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, and Montreal, of course. But, you know, from a business perspective, the first four in terms of interacting with the U.S., et cetera. So there's no way that everybody can live in these city centers. So to your point, they've got to go north or east or west.
And I think the ability to have necessary infrastructure in these far places is greater than ever. I mean, just through technology. I mean, Christ, you just get a subscription for Starlink now, and $600 later, you know, you have unbelievable internet access in all those places, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, what more do you need these days than internet access to make a living where you can afford a house for $250K?
Well, and again, you know, how much money is there to be made from a development perspective? I mean, everybody thought, you know, 20, 30, however many years ago that the DeGasperis family was nuts for building out into Kleinburg with Condrain and you know, basically building all this infrastructure well beyond where folks thought that they were going to live, buying up all this farmland. And, you know, who has the last laugh, right? So, you know, the same phenomenon, I think, is going to be witnessed in these other communities where you can, like, literally go and organically create a huge community with these eligible buyers in a rate market where it's super easy for people to qualify for, you know, a $300,000 to $400,000 mortgage. It's just where the heck can they live for that money?
Where can they live for that money? But now through like solar and Starlink and basically anything Elon Musk, you can have something in the middle of nowhere feel like it's a super futuristic city, right? Like you could buy
high-speed internet. They could bring on a large enough scale. They could bring fiber optics and stuff like that. They could.
Who the hell needs fiber optics anymore? It's like a matter of time before we're all on Starlink or something similar to Starlink. Soon
in the more rural places that's needed now. But if you're building 5,000 to 10,000 homes, then you're going to be getting high-speed internet about it.
You don't need it anymore. But regardless, I mean, one way or another, if you're building that many, the infrastructure is there. But why dig and put up poles for stuff that you don't even need? But regardless of that, like if you add modular and all these technologies really right now, and maybe even like a cord tunnel underneath to get you to back to civilization quickly, like I'm not even kidding. This all
High-speed train,
exists right now. Not even a high-speed train. Like jump in your Tesla, get in a boring tunnel, and in 10 minutes you're back, at Finch Station or something from Belleville or God knows where, or who knows what. Right. But you can have like 3D printed decent houses. Like you can do all this stuff and things can be cheap and you don't need to be near the water. You don't need to be near the core anymore. It's like this whole shift has to happen. Will it happen? Probably not for a while.
It's starting. It's just how long will that take?
Well, that's interesting. I do AM 640 radio a couple times a week. Similar discussions to what we're having here, just kind of general interest topics. But one of the questions we discussed on the John Oakley show on Thursday was, should Elon Musk and all the folks that are Jeff Bezos, et cetera, all the folks that have this fascination with space, what if they turned that interest to actually solving for problems domestic to Earth, right? And so, I think once people start to see either a marketplace or they're just so ultra high net worth that they decide the future is in like affordable housing, that's where I think you see that massive technological turn happen. Because at the end of the day, if you left it to Ford and GM and Toyota and Nissan to forge new ground on electric cars, we'd be right back where we were in 2014. But if it wasn't, in my opinion, for Elon Musk and all the funding that he was able to get, you just saw this. You saw, the more effective change just get accelerated like crazy. So I think the same thing to your point is going to happen when it comes to the technology of building houses and new communities. But there have to be people that are going to be the catalyst for that growth.
So maybe colonizing Mars is the answer. They need to find a way to be able to build houses cheap, instantly, and that technology, like it's like all the evolutions they had in the
they have it.
Space travel, right? Like they talked about all these inventions that happened over the last 50 years that initially had come from them trying to be able to just survive in space, right? And that's probably along those same lines. Never had that thought before. Thanks, John. That's good.
Seriously though, like most things come from that, or movies or shows about
it. Costs billions of dollars to make a hairdryer, but hey, guess what? They've got the need. They've got the need to do it.
But and the other thing to your point earlier is that like the evolution of the entrepreneurial class always changes, but the need for the entrepreneur is always constant. And so this is just a new area for people to go out there and apply their imagination at doing something special. And so, I think affordable housing is the next step. For me, I think, the two biggest concerns that are out there right now is how we're going to treat garbage moving forward, where it's going to be housed and shipped and handled, and where people are going to live, and I think for the past 10 to 20 years, everybody was concerned with the idea of water being a finite crop. I'm not saying that it's not, but I think the real focus now is like just this massive garbage we create and where people live. If somebody can figure out solutions around those two, call it industries or categories, there's a lot of money to be had and a lot of problems to be solved.
Amazing. So we are at the end of our hour. We know that, you've got a lot of people out there too. I think you're on Twitter. What other social medias are you on?
Most of my social media is private, but you can follow us at Wondr Gaming, WONDR Gaming, on all social platforms, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. But my personal stuff is just me posting ridiculous videos of my kids.
No, that's okay. So you're Wondr Gaming. You can find them on all the major social medias. People can,
and you can follow our stock. We're traded on the Securities Exchange, soon to be in the US and in Germany, and the ticker's WDR.
WDR. Get in now, folks. Get in now.
If it wasn't cool enough, okay. Now this is special to me on many levels. So while I was digging around to figure out who you were, sir, I came across an article, and you are apparently doing a partnership with some gentleman that I knew growing up. I went to French immersion public school with the boys.
Oh yeah.
And man, did I love the WWF growing up. I don't know what we call it now, but you want to just tell us something quick about the cool wrestling thing that you're working on with the Megan brothers?
Yeah, so with the Megan Group, they own the likeness and a lot of the assets for very famous wrestlers like the Iron Sheik and
Iron
other.
Sheik.
And exactly, and yeah,
those guys were always hanging out with wrestlers when we were growing up. Like I was friends with their sister Mojan. Yeah, Mojan. Yeah. And these guys, like they always had wrestlers around and pictures of them with the Iron Sheik, and it was like,
yeah.
And even now they did like a documentary about the Iron Sheik, and they're pretty tapped into the wrestling world. But like they were the coolest guys ever growing up because they were friends with the Iron Sheik in like real life.
Yeah, well, we're working with them to mint a series of NFTs. So we have our meme NFT platform, which is called memestation.com. We're launching 3 other marketplaces in September, one for music, one for gaming, and one for sports. And all of our WWE and WCW professional wrestling NFTs are going to be featured on our sports vertical.
Ooh,
thanks.
Yeah.
With big thanks to the Megan boys. I was the tugboat and hurricane kind of guy growing up. You know, Pearl River plunge, a couple of DDTs here and there. My older brother beat me up.
Oh my God!
And now you get to bring it to the world.
That's it.
Right?
I'm living the dream over here.
You're living the dream.
I was like in a Pizza Hut or I don't know, some low end restaurant when I was a kid, and I was looking at this TV screen above my head, and the Killer Bees were fighting against the Hart Foundation or the Hart Brothers, and I was like, what is this? This is the best thing I've ever seen. And then my life changed forever.
Rest in peace, Owen Hart.
But you know what? Actually, one of the fondest memories I have, and I'm going to tie this into your NFT thing, is those fucking bags of chips, the Hostess chips with the wrestling stickers in them. Like
those are my jam.
How hard did we try to collect those goddamn things? How much money did our parents spend on that? How much chips did we eat to get the same sticker over and over and over again? Right. And like, this is what NFTs can be, right?
It's the same thing. It's the digitized version. The only difference between those and NFTs, and don't lie and say you didn't do it, is that you don't get to like lick all the seasoning off before you opened it up.
Right.
But maybe I was the only kid who did that. I don't know.
Maybe that's
a new venture to find.
Yeah, maybe that's how to get like this NFT thing to really pop, is you got to add some seasoning.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
lick off that seasoning.
More tangible. There you go.
But you need that excitement of something that you need to also get, you know, that makes it exciting to get that NFT, not just like, hey, guess what? I'm the idiot who just spent 400 grand on this NFT, or I own this like head of this guy with a nose piercing. What are those things called? You know, those ones, you know, they're like all the crazy NFT heads. That's like what started them off. No,
we like to spend our time on things that people want to buy.
Oh, people are spending and trading these things like crazy. What the hell are they called? Hang on a sec. Anyways, doesn't matter. The Toronto Real Estate Show thanks you for joining us to talk about.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was a lot of fun.
We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify, Apple, anywhere that there's podcasts, you'll find us. So whoever's still listening, I don't know why you have nothing better to do after an hour of listening to us talk, but go check us out and like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.
Yes. Have a wonderful day.